As we look at kind of moving past like pitfalls and thinking about what app or which applications a nonprofit should be looking at to modernize. And I think you talked to Rakesh a little bit, obviously, about the rationalization process, which I assume is your main, process you go through with someone to decide. But are there some easy like applications that tend to be like these are the first ones we would tackle?
Yeah, there is again, rationalization is not kind of very strict to Redapt kind of a framework, but we have adopted from the app rationalization framework where we create what's called a factory, right? A factory pattern where think of that more like an assembly line in a factory, that an application goes through this factory, and when it comes out the other side, it's going to land in a few places. One of a few places that we have. It's going to be lift and shift into Azure. We may have to refactor the application. Hey, small updates here and there just to make it workable on Azure. And the third would be replatforming, where we may have to update the architecture of the application itself. Hey, this is fantastic, but this is a monolithic application. For us to be able to make it more cloud native, then we have to update it and upgrade it to actually, then that kind of falls under replatforming. So rehosting, refactoring, replatforming. And the fourth, least but not the least, say it's happy where it is, and just don't play with it, right? So don't fix anything that's not broken. So, but it typically falls into the first three category here, and we have a framework, and we create a pattern. It's going to change according on to a customer by customer basis, but that foundational strategy for the modernization journey is what we kind of help the customer achieve when we go through the rationalization, and you can call it rationalization, and breaking it down to app assessments after that. So it's kind of, we start at a higher level and slowly kind of tackle one application at a time and go through this. And it'll be a quick win if we were to kind of take one easy lift and shift application and we say, hey, this is how much you were paying, more on the cost perspective, right? This is how much you were paying hosting it on premise. This is what you would get going to Azure. This would be a cost. This would be your resiliency. This is how you can scale efficiently. This is how your DR strategy is going to look like. So it's kind of putting that process together, I would say, as far as like how we would go about choosing the application. So just identifying those low-hanging fruits, as they would say, right? Just for a quick win to show the business.
Yeah, excellent. Great. And Michael, you have anything to add to that as far as those initial things or initial opportunities people should be looking at?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that most people working in the nonprofit, they know where their pain points are. They know their applications that are causing them problems today. And that should be factored into the strategy as well. And looking at maybe they're having problems with performance. The donors are trying to go to their website, and it's just too slow from the East Coast, or they're global and they're having challenges with that. That's something that can be a quick win in Azure if you look at combining some of these strategies where you're moving applications from an on-premise data center to something that can scale globally. And then, the next thing to do is to take that and really split it apart or focus in on it, as Rakesh was saying, do application assessments and see where the other pain points could be eliminated. So I think that's helpful too in getting that quick win for the business. If there's a pain point that you can address, let's focus in on that.
Definitely. And we've been talking all about how nonprofits can be thinking about app mod and how Redapt can help kind of move someone or bring someone through that process. But what is that? How does someone get started, Rakesh, with Redapt if they are saying they've been listening, they feel like this is really applicable to where they are as an organization? What do they do to get started?
Yeah, so definitely contact us, I would say. And our framework, we've been using it for to support a variety of our nonprofit and enterprise customers as well. And I can go through like a 6-step process that we follow with every single customer that we have. Like, how can Redapt help? So the first thing that we do is kind of define a strategy, right? And that is a 3-part definition. How do we define a strategy? understand the motivation of the customer. Of course, in this case, nonprofit, getting more donor engagement with the donor. Second would be identifying the desired business outcome. So more conversations with the customers, with the stakeholders inside the company to kind of understand what their vision is, and also define, and out of that would be your business justification, right? Hey, this is what this is what this modernization journey is going to kind of get you. So understand motivation, identify the desired business outcome, and define the business justification. So that'll be the first step of defining a strategy. Once we have the strategy defined, the next would be planning, right? And this is where I talked about the assessment and the rationalization pieces coming in, where we have to take an inventory. We help them and kind of work with them to come up with an inventory of the digital estate. This is where we take all the applications. Hey, these are the applications. These are the technologies. This is where they are hosted. The breadth and depth of every single application that's present there, and help them create a cloud adoption plan. We use Microsoft's cloud adoption plan. We have our version that's kind of inspired from the Microsoft's cloud adoption plan. We help them create that. And last but not the least here is define the skills and support readiness, right? Yes, we are putting the transition plan together. Yes, you'll be on Azure pretty soon. Once you're on Azure, what are some of the skills that that is needed within your company, within your organization, that you don't have right now to be able to support it as soon as the migration happens. So this will be more documentation, more talking to the stakeholders at that point, and creating a plan and putting it together. Next would be the actual implementation, where we call it the ready phase, where Azure's, we call them landing zone, right? Hey, where are the applications going to get, where are they going to land? What subscription, what tenant, and actually preparing the cloud environment so the applications can be hosted and they are ready to be hosted. And we call it the landing zone implementation. That's the third step. Fourth would be migration and innovation, bread and butter of what we do. We help them migrate depending on where every application would fit. Lift and shift, managed services, low code, no code platform. Those are some of the things that we take into account there. And once it is migrated, how do we innovate? How do we use something like Azure Synapse if they already have some kind of a packaging ETL process like extract, transform, and load? How do we transform that process into something like Azure Synapse? So once they are migrated, we also help them innovate over there. And that's the fourth step in our adoption process. The fifth would be governance. We set a benchmark and we improve governance. There are plenty of benchmarking tools available on Azure directly. So we use those tools to create benchmark and establish governance practices, right? Hey, these are the set of people that will have access to Azure, to this particular resource. It should be all, secure. How do we identify those business risks and putting mitigation plans together if something bad were to happen? So that's more on the governance piece. And the last would be managing. We have Azure monitoring. How do we monitor all the applications that are there? So using something like Application Insights, Azure Monitor, OMS. How do we put that practice? How do we put the tools in place for you to be able to manage those things pretty successfully? And also going back to the first point that we talked about, resiliency. And putting the DR plan in actual, putting it in action, where if something were to go down, your business will continue to operate from a different coast, so to say, right? So that's our typical plan. It's borrowed heavily from the Microsoft Cloud Adoption Framework, but we kind of have updated it based on what we have seen with other customers, and we've used it successfully with nonprofits and other enterprise customers as well, Josh.
Thanks so much, Rakesh, for walking us through that. I am excited about the opportunities that nonprofits have, and if you're a nonprofit watching this and you're interested in investing in AppMod, taking the next step and into moving to the cloud, I encourage you to get in touch with Redapt on the site if you're watching that here, or if you're off the site, maybe on YouTube, you can come to redapt.com and click the Contact Us button, and one of the experts will get in touch so that we can work through this. But thank you for joining us today, and thank you both, Rakesh and Michael, for your time.
Thanks, Josh. Thanks for giving us the opportunity to do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Josh.